If you are considering changing from an M1 driver into an M3, getting into the nitty-gritty of what the Y-track of M3 brings in terms of adjustability versus the T-track of the M1 is well worth a couple of minutes of your time, especially when we have TaylorMade's head of product creation, Brian Bazzell, on hand to explain it. I first asked Baz to differentiate the Y-track in its M3 crown to the T-track in the M1.
Yeah, so a couple of different things. So you do still have the left to right in the Y-track, and you have almost twice as much CG movement front to back. And so even our guys on tour, as they've gone in the beginning of the season, they're shocked at how much they can change the launch conditions from this front to back track and how much weight is moving throughout. Now, the difference also between M1 is you're going to get a little bit more ball speed because of this hammerhead slot. So if you had an M1 prior, the biggest change you're going to see is a little bit in speed. The neutral, launch, and spin are pretty similar, but the ability to change it is dramatically more, along with a little extra ball speed.
So the neutral, launch, and spin are pretty similar to M1, but the Y-track of the M3 allows almost twice as much CG movement front to back to dramatically change launch conditions. And with the geometry of the Y-track, weight can not only be shifted to the left and right extremities of the sole, but to places it could never be before. Baz explains.
Well, we wanted to really, one, have the opportunity to have a highly forgiving setting in your left to right, but also open it up. One of the biggest challenges for us is to open the track up from what before was one track here with one weight, one track back to front with one weight. Now you have this Y track where the weights actually slide throughout. And so you get the advantage of all that mass that's moving around, and you can really affect the ball flight in a bigger way.
So with all this adjustability, how are some of the best players in the world setting up the weights in their M3 and why?
We've seen a few moving the weights all the way forward.
Yeah, Rory did that last
Rory,
week.
Tiger did that. We'll see this week if he puts it in play at Torrey, but he had an M3 440 with the weights forward. And for those guys, you know, you don't get quite the forgiveness or inertia that you'd have in the back, but you really get the explosive speed because the CG drops a little bit, and you drop spin. And so for those guys, you know, maximizing speed, dropping spin, and because the head is already inherently more forgiving in the M3 versus last year's M1, they feel like they're getting enough forgiveness from the club. So that's a little bit of a trend, I would say.
Very interesting. Better players might push the weights forward to reduce spin and increase speed from lower CG. But what about the rest of us? Is the M3 forgiving enough for us to use?
If you put these weights, you slide them back, you split them up, the inertia on this is the sweet spot, COR area over 800 is 39% larger than M1 of previous year, which is huge. That's a big difference. So, you know, is M3 made for just the better player? No, it's not. It actually has high inertia. It's got a big sweet spot because of hammerhead as well. And so whatever you want, and everywhere in betweens.
So there you have it. The M3 built to match the M1 in terms of launch and spin from neutral settings, but with infinitely more possibilities to move mass around to affect spin, CG, ball speed and inertia. From the elite players who might push the weight forward to lower spin and increase ball speed, to the club golfer who might split the weights to the very back and avail of the huge forgiveness, and to others who might move weights left or right to fix or create a draw or fade, and to everyone in between. The M3's Y-track has something for us all to benefit from. For me, for now, it's Donal out.